I've been interested in Stars in the Trash for some time, a cat platformer with the aesthetic of 80s Disney animation and a name that implies a cute story of hope and the comforts of home in an otherwise rather cold world. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. That scratchy, nostalgic aesthetic held a potential to belie something much grander and touching. See, and stop me if you've heard this before, cats are funny creatures. Their seemingly endless ability to do the exact opposite of what owners want from them has stumped and amused the internet basically since its inception, and animals are one of the only few things to never really lose their relevancy in such a fast-flowing era. They were never a fad, they never existed in a vacuum encompassing a certain era. Their application has, when we look at the macro meme era, but their presence has remained invasive in almost every aspect of the internet and, well, human history. Looking back, we have the Countess of Castiglione and her shrine to her deceased dog. You have the ancient Egyptians' treatment and reverence of cats. You have me cleaning poop seemingly placed directly next to my bed in my first weeks of looking after a cat. The animal worship often says more about ourselves than it ever could the animal, and that makes setting a game through the eyes of a cat interesting when done right. It doesn't need to be inherently profound, none of my previous examples are intrinsically, but it gives it a chance to earn that same timeless quality. Despite a lovely aesthetic, I don't think Stars in the Trash has that ability, and here's why. If you have fond memories of Oliver and Company, The Fox and the Hound, and even The Lady and the Tramp, there's a good chance this art style is activating something good in your brain. It mostly works really well and sets up a warm atmosphere almost immediately. This doesn't stay fully consistent the whole time, but it persists just enough for the game's aesthetic to work. 90% of the time it's Cats, and 10% of the time it's Cats the Musical. Most of my small problems with its aesthetic come from animation rather than the art. The faces the cat pulls mid movement can sometimes be quite distracting, and movement as a whole is a bit janky. Your little cat moves very quick, yet the game constantly slows you down to show you cutscenes or generally take your eye off the gameplay. This means stoppages are choreographed by the cat suddenly walking very slowly, breaking the pace of the game. Then suddenly it's platforming by holding onto ledges while scaling a church on the run from an employee of the pound. Okay, I glazed over it a little bit here, but the tone is very weird and it moves from knocking items off the side and being scared of cucumbers to climbing a monstrously tall building Nathan Drake style, and it feels bizarre and not really in a fun way. Being an ever-curious cat, the start of the game has you attempt to leave your house to scare birds and chase cats, only to be stopped by a watchful yet aging dog. When you finally get out, you help out dogs, cats, and go on the run from the pound. It's a simple setup that explains the tension in the story, but doesn't adequately address why the mechanics are the way they are. I often felt like asking, why am I doing the things I'm doing? And the conclusion I draw is that it is effectively a traditional platformer shoved into the facade of a cat. Usually in games like this, the tone, atmosphere, and aesthetic are symbiotic with the gameplay, but I never quite felt it with the Stars in the Trash. The intro feels so quintessentially feline. The aesthetic and tone scream, or should I say meow, cat, but the gameplay doesn't. That doesn't feel as intentionally designed as the rest, and the game lets me down as a result. Take the first mini-boss you encounter, a hoover in the basement that is shocked into life with a single batting of your paw. There's a creativity to playing on the irrational mind of a cat by making this thing truly monstrous, and to beat it you simply dodge through wafts of smoke, rolling away from its sucking move, and just hit it a bunch. Combat is stilted and slow, locking you into rigid animations, and this hover fight shows that off immediately. There are multiple chunks to this fight, but every one of them, bar the last one, is finished by running away, running back, and hitting a few times. It's a creative aesthetic covering a tired shell. I felt this clash for much of the hour or so the game takes to beat. Being very short, Stars in the Trash only ever feels like it explores a few small ideas, and the best moments were probably the opening 10. Mediocre platforming, movement mechanics, and combat mean this game never felt any deeper than the water in the dog bowl. This is a shame, as there's plenty of charm here when you go looking for it. Outside of the aesthetic, the many ways the game makes the cat do very cat things is kind of lovely, and all the images of people's felines thrown around the world is very cute. The story of the little ways your cat helps others and the tale, pun intended, between it, the aging dog, and the comfort of their home is quite sweet. I have no doubt that the team behind this are very passionate about it and the animal it takes from, but unlike actual cats, this messiness isn't made up for in adorable looks and a calming presence on a cold night. And those were some brief thoughts on Stars in the Trash. I felt, yeah, quite disappointed by this one, to be honest. A lot of the complaints I have could be made up for in other sections, and I kept waiting for that to happen, and it just never did. I I kept looking, and then the game ended. I even then went back in to look for little secrets, and you can find them. There are different mats you can scratch up and sleep on, and that gets you achievements and things, but that's it, really. Yeah, I think it's a real shame. I don't think this video could have been that much longer without retreading a lot of what I felt, but also if I kept talking, I feel like I'd start running out of gameplay without spoiling everything. But it does get quite bizarre in not fun ways, and I think it might be worth playing just to see how that works and to look at the aesthetic. Either way, if you liked hearing my thoughts and watching this video, please do subscribe or give the video a like, it really does help, and let me know what you want me to play and talk about next. Thanks.